Being confident and successful hunter goes beyond killing an elk. It's about the hunt. It's about the experiences. For you, but also for those that hunt with you and all the others that share the mountain. There's an honor in being a hunter and understanding your role and unwritten rules of etiquette ensure that we all know how to behave. Respect for others, respect for the land, respect for the animal. But it's hard to be confident in anything if you don't know the rules. Well, y'all, let's just talk about that. Pull up a chair, adjust your volumes just right, and welcome to Blue Collar Elk Hunting.
Welcome to Blue Collar Elk Hunting, brought to you by ElkBros.com, with your hosts Gilbert Ornelas and elk hunting coach Joe Gilly. You want to hunt elk, and they live to hunt elk. Their goal is to share with you what they have learned grinding it out for over 35 seasons, doing what they love. So come on into camp and set a spell. Welcome to Blue Collar Elk Hunters.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Elk Camp. This is the first time with us. Glad to have you. Hope you enjoy the show. And for those blue collar hunters following our show, welcome back to Elk Camp. I'm Gilbert Ornelas, live here from Spring, Texas, and from New Mexico, our elk hunting coaches, Chav and Joe. Welcome back to Elk Camp with us, brother.
Yeah, and I think this is the first time we've done one during the day. So
it's not night outside, as everybody can see behind me in my big pane window. If you guys are new to the show, this time of the show, we're going to go to our ElkBros shout outs, and it's just a few cities with the most listeners topping our charts. So it's time for the ElkBros shout outs, guys.
You started out there, Gilbert.
Yeah, topping the list, topping the chart this week is Iowa's oldest city and home for the turkey and dressing sandwich. And the Trappistine Nuns Caramel as listed as the top, and it's listed as one of the top 10 4th of July fireworks displays in Dubuque, Iowa.
Dubuque, Iowa.
Iowa.
The Trappistine Nuns caramels, man. They say that they're known nationwide. So,
I don't know that I've ever had a Trappistine Nuns caramel, but I might have to get on the internet and find out what they taste like.
Yeah, that sounds like a good idea.
Yeah.
Okay, known for its Pascal celery, which was served for holiday dinners at the White House in the early 1900s, once labeling it as the celery capital of the world, Arvada, Colorado. Shout out to them.
Shout out to Arvada.
I didn't know they could grow anything in Colorado. I thought it stayed too damn cold and too many mountains up there.
No, sir, man. That place got water galore, got green going on. You know, that's well, you got to remember too. You know, that's the location where a lot of stuff's being grown now. So,
hydroponically and naturally.
Yeah, central Colorado and the eastern part grow a lot of stuff.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You're not lying. You know, I drove through there from Kansas, and it just looked like you're in Nebraska or Kansas. It's flat.
Exactly.
Until you get to that middle western side, you don't get to the Rocky Mountains. You know.
And let me tell you, you haven't had fruit bud until you've had it from La Junta and Rocky Ford and that area.
Yeah.
And it's
cantaloupe, watermelon.
Yeah.
Huge over there. So next up, located in the beautiful Sacramento Canyon Valley. And these guys once had a missile from White Sands Missile Range. Now understand, this is like a population of around 400. Their community had a missile from White Sands Missile Range go haywire and land right in the middle of their little community. Tiburon, New Mexico. Shout out to our listeners out there that's been listening to us.
Wow. And you know, there's an old Johnny Cash title song, "The City Was Sold." One of my favorite Kid Rock songs, Jackson, Mississippi, the home of rhythm and blues, and you know it's steeped in the roots of gospel music. Jackson, Mississippi, in the house tonight.
And a big shout out to the home of the inventor of the 4-door automobile, and containing 29% of the entire state population. And yes, there are actual falls. Sioux Falls, South Dakota.
Sioux Falls, man.
Dakota.
Oh, I'd like to do one other shout out to Darren And Darren is from, I think it's Millsap, Texas, is where he's from. And for his awesome review that he left us on iTunes, he's coming to New Mexico this September for the primetime second archery tag. He's got one in his pocket, so he's heading to New Mexico, and he's all excited. And he left us a review talking about how much he's enjoyed the show. So,
oh, that's awesome, man!
Yeah,
thank you, Darren, for coming out there and rating, reviewing us, and letting us know how we're doing, guys. That's something that we've got to have, guys. We've got to have everybody rate, review, give us a 5-star rating. That'll be big for us in the show. Thanks a lot, Darren.
So the other thing I'd like to tell the listeners out there too, guys, is during next week's show, we're going to wrap up and we're going to talk about the final thoughts on our whole confidence series. We hope all you guys have really enjoyed this series. We've tried to really just give it to you from straight from us, from our heart, our experiences. But we're going to be wrapping that up, and we also are going to be answering your questions on the show. So if you have any question whatsoever, we want to hear from you. So do us a favor, pull up that email. We know you've been itching with something that, it's funny. I was in the doctor's office the other day and found out he listens to our show. And,
That's cool.
Yeah. And he's
That's
like,
real cool.
He started asking me these questions. I'm like, man, just send those things in. So
Yeah.
for you guys that have any questions at all, send them to info, that's INFO, at ElkBros, ElkBros.com. Also, go to ElkBros.com, our website, and check out the other elk content we have on there. We'd love to have you sign up and join our elk camp while you're there. That way you get notified anytime that we put up a new story. I mean, Chav's been writing some great stories, tips that we put on there, all of our videos and podcasts. By joining our elk camp, you get to stay in the know. So we'll get that all done, and we'd love to have you there.
Joe, also, that'll be the home for our Elk Academy coming up. Isn't that correct? Right. It's
and
under
so
construction.
That's another reason you want to sign up, is you want to get information when that puppy's coming out. So, a lot of work going in behind that. We would love to get it out ASAP, but man, it is an endeavor. So as soon as it gets, you'll hear about it.
Yeah,
that's fantastic.
Coming up. But
yes, sir.
Also, no dumb questions. I mean, there are no dumb questions.
That's right.
If you have anything you want to ask, now's the time to do it. No matter how big, how small, just ask that question.
I don't know. I have a tendency to ask some dumb questions every now and then. That's all right.
Hey, I had an old coach that used to tell me all the time, the only dumb question's a question you didn't ask. And that leads us right into where we're going to go today, Joe.
You bet.
So, let's get to it. And these guys, we want to talk about, why there are people out there that don't know or haven't been taught the proper hunting etiquette. I'm going to let you just jump right in, Joe.
Well, and so, let's talk about that. But this whole episode is going to be on helping everybody that needs to know about hunting etiquette. And hunting etiquette's all those unwritten rules that a lot of us have only learned because we grew up in elk hunting families. And so when we talk about people, not elk hunting, but hunting families,
Sure, you bet.
I knew my dad's rules long before I knew man's rules. I mean, there were things that we were taught growing up about how you acted, how you were supposed to behave, how you treated other people, treated the land, and treated the animals. So, when we talk about first asking the question, why do we think there are people out there that don't know or haven't been taught proper etiquette, is there's a lot of people starting into this sport that were not raised in an elk hunting family. Their parents, that wasn't their thing. That wasn't their father's thing. It might not have been their uncle's or grandfather's thing. Take you, for example, Gilbert.
Right. Yeah, I didn't start out elk hunting my whole life. I've been hunting since I could tote around a tote sack from my grandfather and put his squirrels in it and his, everything else, from dove to quail to deer. But I started elk hunting real late. It's a shame because I fell in love with it, but I started elk hunting at age 40, and in September this year, I'll turn 50. So it's been 10 years. But just like me, I needed to, hunting with guys like you. Y'all helped us with that hunting etiquette. So, Joe, what advice do you have for hunters if you're hunting public land?
Well, so first of all, people hunting public land, you got to remember it's public property. It's public property, y'all. And remember what your mom taught you when you was a kid. You got to share. So, you know, it's important. I mean, none of us, it belongs to all of us, belongs to none of us, you know, and you're going to come across people out there hunting public land. You know, the areas that all of us hunt in, you know, there's a lot of people that utilize that area, and it's just not hunters. You got cowboys out there, you got cattle ranchers out there. You might have, you know, hikers and stuff out there. So, you know, there's a lot of people that are out there, and you can't start acting like you own the place. And the other thing is too, is that if you are somebody that understands hunting etiquette, you're going to come across people that don't, you know.
Right.
Not everyone knows all these unwritten rules. That's the whole purpose of what we're doing right now. So don't be a jerk, you know.
Yeah, no doubt.
You come across people out there, man, that's a learning moment. That's a teaching moment. That's an opportunity to meet people, to make some friends. Gosh, I think some of the
help your brothers out. They have problems, whatever.
Yeah. You know, those people are out there for the exact same reason you're out there, man. They've been dreaming up these days. They've been listening to the Blue Collar Elk Hunting podcast. They've been, you know, they're prepping. They want to be doing just what you are. So don't be a jerk, man. That's kind of the ongoing theme on there. You know, your reaction, your
Joe's
attitude.
Rule number one: don't be a jerk.
Don't be a jerk. You know, look, this sport has got enough people outside there that are attacking it. We don't need to attack each other from the inside. So, you know, your reaction, your attitude, when you come across somebody on public property, that and public land, that can be a make or break on that first meeting, man. You know, so, you know, talk to them, cooperate with people, because I tell you, friends.
Right. You know, I can recall running into a shepherd up at, I think it was Tres Piedras.
Right. They're running the sheep.
Yeah, he was
up
running
there.
the sheep, and, you know, we were friendly. He was friendly, and, you know, he gave us some tips.
Yeah.
You know, some positive tips, and that helped us out in that hunt.
No, exactly, man. It's so much easier, better for you to make a friend than it is to make an enemy out there. And a lot
you know, we've encountered a lot of people in the woods, both supposed to be there and not supposed to be there.
Right.
And we never have treated them rudely, you know, and I've never been treated rudely. Well, on private land, I did one time, but at the end of the day, we fixed all that. When we're all hunting public land, everybody's got a right to be there. So everybody I've talked to, man, have been helpful and, you know, want to know, you know, what the elk are doing, and everybody's been willing to share information. So,
and you know, people are like, when they're out there in the woods, they see somebody and they're like, oh, all the animals are gone.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I have never let that bother me. So all three of us know, and I think we've talked about, there's been times when we've had hunters driving, I mean, like NASCAR, coming up a trail that we were going down to where they just came from. And, you know, they're probably going, I don't know where those guys are going. There ain't no elk down there. We've all been down there. And we killed 2 elk in one morning.
Exactly.
In a place they came from. So just because you see somebody in an area does not mean that there's no animals there. A half mile can make a world of difference out in the elk woods. You know, don't freak out, you know, and don't just think there's nothing there because you see somebody.
Yeah, there's been many a times that Joe and I have been on an elk herd, and the road not too far away from us, and a 4-wheeler goes by. You know, the elk just kind of look up and put their heads back down. So, you know.
Yeah. That morning I killed my big bull. We had people all around us, all over us. It was crazy. Chav and I must have counted 10 bikes that went by us that morning. And I mean, really close to us too. And we're working a herd and calling cows and bulls both. And they're just putting right on by. And I'm like, I can't believe this is happening. But the elk are pretty oblivious to it when they're in those high traffic areas, huh, Joe?
Yeah, no, they're going to do what they want to do. And, they're used to hearing those man-made noises. Now it starts getting in their danger zone. That's a little bit different. But, we talked about that before. It's kind of like smell. It's like their scent. They smell something way far off. They don't freak out. They smell something within 100 yards, and they're out of there. Same thing kind of happens with the noise. And, I've actually seen elk wait for a vehicle to go by before they cross a road. I've seen them bedded and watch people drive by on a four-wheeler. I've been there, seen that. So, don't go freaking out because you bump into other people. In fact, what should you do? And there's a big question, man. What should you do when you come across a hunter in the woods? And I'm going to give just a few guidelines, and then we can kind of talk about our own experience on that. So you see somebody else in the woods, as soon as you see that person, the first thing you need to do is stay quiet in case there's an animal close by. If they're on one and they're seeing something that you're not, make sure that you're quiet. Check their body language. Are they in a setup? Do they have an arrow on? Do they have a rifle up? Check on, are they calling in a particular direction? If they're looking in your direction, put that hand up and just a little wave to make sure that they know that you're there. And then you can kind of read their
body language and the responses from them.
Yeah. Yep. If they wave back to you, then you got two choices. You can either approach that person quietly or you can turn and leave, to hunt in another area. Both of those are considered fine and dandy. I'm the type of person, I'm a people person. I'd rather talk to people in the woods.
Oh, yeah.
Anytime.
Mm-hmm.
That way they know I'm there. We've already broke that barrier. A lot of times, by talking to them, you pick up tips, you kind of cooperate with each other and where you're headed, where I'm going to be, find out how long they're going to be there. So there's a lot of material, a lot of reconnaissance that you can get from somebody.
You bet. Man, 4 eyes are better than 2.
Mm-hmm. Now, if that person waves you off, if they start going, hey, then you back out as quietly as possible. That means that they're on something, they got something going on, and you don't want to ruin it for them. Okay? Now, if you do decide to approach another hunter, please make sure your weapon is shouldered. If it's a rifle, it's up on the back, it's, on your strap, shouldered. Or if you've got a bow, you don't have an arrow nocked, because never, ever aim a rifle at someone intentionally or unintentionally. Safety, muzzle control, make that person comfortable, when you're going to do that. Introduce yourself, and the best way to do that, do you know what handshake was invented? Do you know where that comes from? The handshake, well, you got to think about all the times people, way back in time, when they came across another person, it's kind of like you out in the woods. You don't know if that person's somebody that upset with you or happy with you. And back in the day, they didn't know if that person was wanting to kill them. The shaking the hand was actually a way of showing that your hand was empty, that you had no weapon. And when you shake somebody's hand, now you guys are embraced and you're connected now. So,
right.
That puts you in a vulnerable position. And it's the same thing. When you shake somebody's hand out there, it kind of lowers the guard. So shake hands with them. Make the interaction, guys, positive, because, again, you act like a jerk.
Yeah. Jerk will bite you.
Yeah.
And the elk gods won't be kind.
I believe in karma, man, and things kind of come back around. So if you want to be a turd, things happen, man. You can end up getting flushed. So
that stuff all runs downhill.
Yep. It doesn't work out. So strike up a conversation with them. Guys, you're both doing the same thing. You got plenty to talk about. It's not like that's the great thing. When we're out in the woods, there really are no strangers because we're all doing the same thing. We all have the same goal. We might be doing it a few different ways, but we all have that same goal. And if they look hungry and thirsty,
offer them something.
Offer them something.
That's it.
You know, I made one of the best friends that I've known in my life because I came across him. It was on an antelope hunt, actually. and I had a decoy set out that I made myself. And nothing had come into my decoy. And so I was hiking back to camp after, they've been part of the day. And I come across this guy underneath a little juniper bush, and he's all sweaty, beat up, and scratched up. And he didn't look in good condition, and I offered him some water. And he's like, man, I'd love to have some water. And
Right.
I ended up sharing my lunch with him, and come to find out, I started telling him about my decoy, and he says, yeah, I know about that decoy, man. He says, I've been stalking it for the last 2 hours. So.
That's hilarious.
And he ended up being one of our best friends and hunted with us for years. And, make it a positive thing.
What about hunters that ask you if you've seen anything, Joe? What's your policy on that?
I lie. No, in all honesty, let me tell you the 2 ways that I feel about that. I don't know how about you guys feel about it. But I think people need to kind of earn their keep a little bit. And, when I'm having a conversation with somebody, just that conversation alone, and this is why I'm telling people out there to talk to people, just that conversation alone may alter how I'm feeling and inspire me to say, hey, this is somebody that's doing it right. They're struggling. They're having a hard time. They need a break. They need a tip, and I'll help them out. If I'm with somebody that, comes across a whole different way, well, yeah, I've heard something, but I'm not real descriptive,
Right.
And most of the time, I get a chance to ask them first, and they said, well, I haven't heard nothing. I was like, it's a tough day. So
Yeah, those guys will throw up all over you if you give them the opportunity,
Sure.
So they want to talk about, and then they ask you, what you've got going on, what you see. I've always been of the opinion that I don't want to lie to anybody. So if I don't want to tell you, I just say, well, I'd rather not talk about that right now.
You're just straight up direct. Huh?
Yeah, pretty straight up direct with people. I used to fish for a living, and guys would ask me all the time, where'd you catch those fish? Besides me saying, well, right here in the mouth, I would say, well, guys, when the tournament's over with, I'd be glad to share with you, what I was doing and how I was doing with it. But I don't want to lie to you, so I'm just not going to say anything right now.
Right.
So, and if there's a lot of guys that I would tell what I was doing and where I was doing it at, because it really didn't matter. They had to make it happen anyway. And I kind of feel that way sometimes in the woods, especially when we're elk hunting. Elk hunting's not something that's easy to do. So even though guys are in that area, it doesn't really mean that they're going to be as successful as you can, because they don't have the confidence or the skill level that you have either. So that's kind of how I feel about that, Joe.
It can work another way too, in that sometimes when you don't share with people, they can end up stumbling through a place you plan on being that evening. So sometimes, it's good to say, yeah, I have a bull bugling over here at this area, and I plan on being there in the evening. And
that's right.
By doing that, you're being honest. He knows that you're going to be there already. And so that gives them a chance to decide. And you can even tell them, yeah, I'm going to probably be there this evening. If it doesn't pan out, I probably go someplace else tomorrow. So now they know there's an elk in the area. You're kind of giving them the okay to go in there after you get done. And so it might even come back the other way from them. So I'd like to have a conversation with the hunter that I'm out there with. And
I think all that, keeps you from having a conflict later, because obviously you're going to be around those same guys the whole trip.
Right.
You don't know how many days they're going to be out there. That's another good subject to say, hey, hey guys, how long are y'all going to be here? So we know where you're be in this area or what. I mean, it's helped us out tremendously before.
Yeah, exactly. Because it can even be that they go back and tell their guys, it's like, oh, I met this one dude, man, what a jerk, he's talking about being in this area. I could care less. We're going in there no matter what,
Right.
Whereas if, you're good to him, it's like, no, he's a pretty good guy and there's a guy going to be over there. So let's kind of stay wide and find some.
Well, by the way, they called me in 3 times. So we might want to stay out of there. They're pretty good. That's happened both ways, hasn't it, Joe?
Yeah. And absolutely nothing wrong with that. You go to
trying to get it done.
Yeah, you go chasing a bugle and you find that there's another hunter in the area. Now they know there's another hunter in the area as well, and I think that's helpful.
Yeah.
So,
and a lot of times we bump into the same people in the same area. So sometimes I volunteer information about other spots that I've been at before, but we're not hunting this year. So knowing that we'll bump into them again and we'll get the report, see if they're actually there. So, you can do that too.
Yeah, they basically help you scout sometimes. You can trade information and it seems like hunting some of the same areas year after year, people get to know each other year after year, and they kind of know the areas you go, how you hunt, where you're at, and everybody helps everybody out in that way. So I always think it's so much better to be cooperative than it is to be all disgruntled. Sorry, bud.
Man, my grandpa used to say you catch a whole lot more flies with honey than you can with vinegar.
That's exactly right.
I believe that. You touched on a really good point, Joe, about being safe with your weapon. I want to share a little story, and I won't go into grave detail, but I had a hunter approach me one time, and he had a sidearm.
Right.
And he covered that sidearm and had his hand on it the whole time where he was walking towards me. And that really, I have a background in law enforcement and in
red flag.
A big red flag when somebody's got their hand on their weapon, right?
Yeah.
So I would urge guys that if you do have a sidearm, don't know how many states allow that, but if you do have a sidearm, that you would not cover that weapon.
So you guys listen out there, never. That's not where you want it. That you're not going to go with that.
Don't do that. Yeah,
that could escalate something really, really fast and bad. So
yeah, and if I wouldn't have had the training that I had, it would have.
Yeah,
yeah,
it could have.
For sure.
So just the opposite of that, when we're out there after the hunt and it's midday, if you are heading back, you guys have been with us when we're in a 4-wheeler or something like that, and we come across other people coming on a trail. I always stop to say hello. You don't have to, but again, it goes a long way. And it's just got to be, hey, how are you? I'm so-and-so, shake hands. And, it doesn't have to be long and drawn out if it gets to a discussion that you enjoy, and again, you
I've
might
met
get
guys from all the way from Pennsylvania to Kentucky wow, they traveled all this way. We travel a long way too, but these guys come from different states from all over the country. So
sure. And the world gets real small out there. You find out, you bump into somebody you've never met before, and they know somebody you know.
Yeah, that's wild.
It's pretty cool.
Yep.
So what I'd like for us to do now, because I think we talked really good on encountering people on state land. So I think what we want to do is basically talk about just how those unwritten rules are, the same way our dad would teach us, and we'll kind of break them down. And they break down easy in that it's respect others, respect the land, respect the animal, and one more I want to add in there is know the bro code. Okay. Yeah. So respecting others. What's some ways, guys, that some of those etiquettes things to ensure that we respect other people?
Well, I think, we didn't quite touch on it, but sometimes people get up late and they'll be there a half hour to an hour later, and you may be set up and they're just figuring on going from point A to point B and not really look around. Because I know Gilbert and I were set up one time.
I'm laughing because I remember it perfectly.
Yeah, we were set up and we had the bull bugling. He was coming. And then a four-wheeler comes right by.
Right through the middle of
Right through the middle
Yeah.
of the whole thing.
Yeah.
And never noticed us waving at him and probably didn't hear the bull bugling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But-
So guys, man, don't drive through areas prime time. You know, if you want to sleep in, God bless, man, sleep in. But please don't go out there and blow it for others just because you decided to sleep in. You know, there's people been out in the woods since 2 hours before daylight getting a position.
Would you suggest just walk out of camp, Joe?
Yeah, heck yeah.
If you're going to sleep in late?
If you're going to sleep in late, walk out of camp.
Yeah.
You know, or if you're truck hunting, you know, you can generally drive on a road to a different area. That's different. But if you're out there camping and you're in areas where you're either going to, you know, drive out on a four-wheeler, on a UTV, those areas, man, those animals could be anywhere.
Yep.
You know, we tell a story. I think you wrote a story. It's on ElkBros.com. You know, shoot, we got out of our truck. We hiked not 300 yards and it starts to rain. So we start going back, and I don't know why I gave a cow call. Doggone bull comes out 50 yards from our truck, you know, crossing the road. So, and guys, when we say road, you got to understand, it's not a paved thing. It's not even a dirt road.
It's a trail.
Yeah.
It's a UTV trail.
Yeah, basically.
It's a dried up riverbed.
Yeah.
That's it. I mean, you just never know where they're going to be.
Those animals can be anywhere. So whatever you do, guys, don't spoil someone else's hunt.
That's
you know, if you're out there, you know, and you see someone stopping ahead of you to hunt an area, you know, and you see them getting out to hunt that area, move along, go to someplace else. Another important thing is when you are going out or when you're camping or anytime during those prime hunting hours, you don't have to worry as much midday, because midday, those animals are up in the trees, they're up high up there, so you can travel some of those roads and stuff better. You don't have to worry about that. And hunters hunting during the midday are up there in the trees. It ain't going to affect them. So as little disturbance as possible. Please minimize your noise and your visual presence. And I'm talking camp, I'm talking about where you park, and I'm talking about when you're hunting. I've been out there and had an animal coming in, and all of a sudden I hear two guys talking and laughing coming down a trail, and just boogered the animal out of there because he heard them. So when it comes to hunting, y'all, no matter what, your camp, when you park, and when you're hunting, silence is gold. Sneak into the woods, sneak out. Be a hunter. Be stealthy. You know, if you're unseen, that's the best way for it all to work out. And I mean, like camp, another thing, don't stick your camp right in the middle of a place where people are hunting in a prime area. And, you know, don't be all noisy with your camp, and definitely do not trash your camp. And we're going to talk about that with respecting the land, but think about that. Oh,
where would you consider places not to put your camp?
Right in the middle of a meadow, you know. Now, if it's a designated area, like what some of these places are doing.
Where you have no choice.
Yeah, you know, and I mean, and if it's right off of a well-traveled road, if it's a park off a well-traveled road, well, that's another thing. But, you know, if you're hiking in or doing something like that, and you go and you set up a camp right in the middle of a park that's a feed area, bedding area, stuff like that, you know,
or anywhere near a water hole.
Yeah, well, and by law, you're not supposed to be doing that. So, you know, you're supposed to have your vehicle only, so you can only hunt so close. Camping's a little different, but, you know, you got weapons in there, so it could always be questionable to the law. So, you know, just think about that. That people, especially water holes, if people are using them to hunt on top of. So, be safe with your weapon. And we talked about that before. You know, respect others by being safe with your weapon. And what I mean by that is, we talked about approaching and stuff. What I'm talking about is you don't shoot at an animal on a skyline. You always know what's behind an animal. You check the background. You make sure that you have that. It's really, really super critical with a rifle. But even with a bow, man, because I've seen arrows fly by people. Yes, sir.
Absolutely. I've seen arrows kill more than one animal.
Yes, sir. And we've even had where somebody didn't pay attention to a skyline, an arrow went over shooting at an animal and hit somebody's horse. So,
Right.
God, you just never want something like that to happen, because that really doesn't look good on us.
Mm-mm.
Let's talk about respecting the land. Any words of advice from you guys?
Well, I
Go ahead.
just think you got to know where you are. Make sure you're not on somebody else's land. I think those are two really good things. You can always make sure you know where you're at.
Yeah, and that's easier now. If you have Onyx on your cell phone, you should know where you're at.
No doubt.
You don't want to be doing something on somebody else's property and cause problems like that.
Yeah, respect the boundaries.
Yeah, respect the boundaries.
Yeah, this past spring, we went up to hunt for sheds, and we walked right by our camp, but you couldn't tell there was a camp there because we picked everything up. And, that's one thing, don't leave anything behind, no footprints.
Yeah,
that was awesome when we pulled up there to camp again. You couldn't even tell the camp had been there.
Right.
Right. And that's our goal. You don't want to leave any trash. And, we come across camps sometimes that they've got beer cans and metal and everything like that. They've still got the rock campfire. I really don't mind the rock campfire. There's something about that to me that is almost historical. But to go and find beer cans in it and empty cans and stuff like that, that's just not cool.
I think another good thing is, when you come to a gate, leave it like you found it. If it was closed, close it back. Don't leave it open.
So, and that's a good point, Gilbert, because there's a lot of guys that would come to an open gate and they would be like, if you're trying to be good to the landowner, you're like, well, I better close this gate. But the problem is sometimes them landowners leave those gates open, and they want that gate open so that their animals can move from one side to the other. So that's why we say, leave it how you find it. If you're the first person and you have that gate closed, make sure you close it back, because after if you open it, ain't nobody else going to close it. Yeah. So make sure that you do that, and always, always take out more trash than you bring in.
Well, and I think another good thing, Joe, is to know your state local rules, right? Know your boundaries. Don't shoot at animals that are out of your boundaries. Right. You don't want some problem going on. I mean, there'll be another day that you can chase that animal. And I've had this happen to me many, many times where I could have harvested or shot a bull that wasn't on the property that we needed to be hunting on.
Well, and you bring up a good point, because all of us have been on the boundary of private property, and there's animals screaming on the other side on private property. Well, there's nothing wrong with pulling them over.
That's right.
You want to call and bring them over again. Those animals are free ranging, and so there's no problem with trying to pull them over. But what happens if you shoot an animal on your side of the fence and they jump to the other side of the fence? Because you and me have been in that case, Gilbert.
Absolutely. Yes, sir.
And
yes, sir.
And that can easily happen, because you have an animal that you can shoot that animal 400 yards away from a fence, and they can end up, or even with the bow.
With a bow, yeah.
They take off and end up jumping the fence, to get to another area.
Had that happen to us.
Sure.
Yeah.
So the proper etiquette in that is to contact the landowner. Contact that landowner, let them know that you shot an animal on your side, it crossed their fence, and you'd like permission to go ahead and track that animal. If they want to be there when you track it, the more the merrier. Now you got some help. So, and show them where the animal crossed if there's any worries about that. But you can shoot an animal on your side of the fence. If they jump off the other side of the fence, just let those landowners know. That's the proper etiquette.
Right. Joe, do you know the statute in New Mexico if there is a landowner that's notified and he's decided to not allow you on his his land, you need to contact the game warden, or would you just
That's
not go?
well, that's the first thing I would do. But you got to remember this too, is that, you know, I would hate to be in a situation where that animal ends up spoiling there. So the first thing I would do is I would notify Game and Fish. I'd get some place where I could, or your local game warden, I'd notify them that you have an animal down, you've contacted the landowner. The landowner has not accepted you going into their land, but your animal has crossed over to their fence and you want to follow that animal and recover it, and then get directions from that official. Okay.
That's good stuff.
That's the best way to cover that. And honestly, I've never come across that.
I haven't either. I met everybody I've talked to been, as a matter of fact, they've helped. You know, they're like,
Sure.
hey, we'll come help you. You know,
Yeah.
you can show me where that animal was hit on your side, and you prove to me that, you know, that it was. And then they've asked the question, did you call them off of us?
Sure.
Well, you tell them the truth. Hell yeah, we did.
Yeah.
You know, or if you didn't, you didn't.
Just consider the fact that if you were a landowner, and I think when it happened with us, man, that landowner was kind of proud, said, man, that's pretty good. You guys able to do that. But just consider yourself and think about, in any of this, guys, put yourself in the other person's pair of boots. You
Right.
know, man, if I was a landowner and somebody called me and said, you know, this, sir, and with respect, and was respectful to me and my property, man, I'd do anything and everything for that person, because I'd rather much have that than somebody not.
Oh, I agree.
And you know, you might actually make some friends there.
One of the things that you alluded to earlier in the podcast, Joe, was life's 10% of what happens to us and 90% of how we deal with it.
That's exactly right.
I think you got to leave that up to that. But that's good content for our elk brothers out there to know that if we knock a bull down or a cow or any animal, deer, whatever you're hunting, and it crosses a boundary line, we need to make sure that we allow ample time for us to alert the landowner and
Sure.
or fish and game officials.
In all these situations, if you try dealing things in the right way, and things don't always go your way, life isn't always fair, but you know, sometimes it's up to us to take the little bit of higher road, you know.
Yeah.
And again, I truly believe in karma.
Yeah.
Things come back around, man.
Yeah.
So we talked about, now we've covered respecting others, we've covered respecting the land, and the third one I'll talk about is respecting the animal, right? And
yeah, it's a huge deal for us. I
Sure.
think it's like we've said, we owe it to that animal to respect it. And if we're out there going to harvest one of God's creatures, and we owe it to that animal.
Sure, that's exactly right. And I still remember as a kid, and it's something kind of that I live by, is that, you know, my dad always said, you know, if you're not going to eat it, don't kill it.
Absolutely. My grandpa, he'd whoop your tail end if you shot something and didn't kill it. I mean,
Sure.
didn't eat it.
Yeah.
You know, if you harvested something, it didn't matter if it was a bird, squirrel, you know.
Right.
He didn't get too bad on varmints. I mean, he didn't killed all his his livestock and stuff. But at the end, and snakes, he didn't like snakes. But
Snakes have a bad rap, man.
yeah,
Yeah.
well, the ones down here do, because a lot of them can hurt you real bad.
Right.
Ask Chav, he can tell you about the rattlesnake.
Yeah.
No, and you know, I know a lot of people, especially in our area here, they're like getting overrun with prairie dogs, and they have problems. You know, people have problems with coyotes and different things, and
Right.
different varmints. And I know there's control that has to happen, and so that is what it is. But man, if you're going to go out, myself, I had a good friend of mine has invited me to go duck hunting with him, and he has a great place to duck hunt, and I'm just kind of like, you know, I just don't like the way they taste. So
You gotta have a good coon ass cooking for you, Joe. You'll quit hating the way they taste. I promise you. Get a good coon ass, put them in a pot and some gravy. I promise you're gonna like 'em.
you know, dude, I mean, if I'm having to add, you know, I add this, I add that, I put this in, I put that in, I take this and I take that, and then I have to reach in and throw the duck away and eat what all that other
Yeah,
stuff.
rocks. That's only if you eat coots, right? Black ducks. That's only if you
Like
eat
that.
some good ducks that have had a load of rice in them and stuff like that. It's
And that's
it's
what
pretty
he
good
told
table.
me. He's like, you ain't making it right,
Right.
So, yeah,
He's right.
and I get that, but also, and I love to wing shoot, and
Right.
so if I have other people that I talked to before that like duck or like
Yeah.
geese,
Sure.
then I get to share that wealth with them. So that's another option for something
Right.
like that.
One of the things we tried one time was making jerky out of goose breast and duck as well, and it was fantastic. We marinated it and then put it in a dehydrator, and it was fantastic jerky.
Right.
Yep.
So
Chav, what are one of the things that you think that you do to help respect the animal after you've harvested?
Well, I think probably the most important thing, respecting the elk is to practice your shooting. You want to make a good, clean kill and, take an ethical shot. I know I've seen you and Joe shoot, and, your range is probably double of mine, but, take the shot that you can make.
yeah, shoot within your abilities, right?
Yeah, know your limitations.
Yeah.
Right.
And know your weapon. Be
Exactly.
proficient and familiar with that weapon.
Boy, and I tell you, I've been with a lot of guys and I've heard a lot of stories and stuff. I think you really got to read that animal's body language too when you're dealing with archery hunting.
Sure.
Because if he's looking at you or he's really on full alert and it's he's past 30 yards, 35 yards, he's going to move,
Right.
He's going to feel that release of that arrow, and, they pivot. And when they pivot, their whole body just moves. If they're looking at you, you just really got to understand that the creature and do your homework and understand that if they're on full alert, man, probably not a time you want to release that arrow.
Oh, you don't have to shoot at that moment. Sometimes some patience, we get worked up and we think they're going to walk off. Well, sometimes if they walk off, it's better than them going off with a wound in them. So,
right.
And a lot of times, man, if we're just patient, we get a better shot,
Absolutely.
than we thought we were going to get. Which brings me to the point, if you do wound an animal, if you shoot it, track it. You owe it to that animal that you're going to do your best, your due diligence to track that animal. And I know that there's some people that practice, blood and done.
Yeah.
And that's something that each person needs to come to on their own accord. But if you don't know what blood and done is, what that is that, if you hit an animal, that's your animal. That's the animal that you're going to hunt. You're going to track it and you're going to hunt that animal. And that's the animal gets your tag. If it doesn't, then you're done. Now, I'm not saying you have to do that. I'm just telling you what it is. And I know that there's places that I guide that has a one and done policy on it.
Yeah. And
it sure makes people really think about that shot and making a better shot. When you put that restriction.
I think 95% or maybe 99% of all private ranches now have all gone to blood and done, the guide's got to really understand what a superficial wound is, and it's his call to make with the outfitter on whether he felt like it, that just grazed the brisket or whatever it may be. But there are tons of ranches I know when you draw blood, that's your animal and that's what you're going to do. You're going to hunt that animal. Yeah,
don't say, and assume that hit was one where that animal's going to survive.
Yeah.
Because most of the time, if that animal is hit anywhere in any kind of vital area of any kind, they're eventually going to go down. And I have lost an animal, and I know how that goes. And it happens, and it's going to happen. I don't care who you are, it's going to happen because that's just the nature of things. We don't always get to control things perfectly for our situations, so many variables. But buddy, if you wound that thing, you make sure that you give that chase and that you give it its due diligence and its respect. And if you kill that animal, take care of your kill immediately. as soon as possible. And I know there's situations that come up, but you don't want to kill an animal and have that animal spoil on the mountain. So, avoid wasting that. That's, to me, it's just a terrible thing. In September, it can get pretty warm.
Mm-hmm.
It can.
And,
I think one of the good things is when you're quartering, find you a good shade and you drag your quarters up under the shade. Try to carry some cheesecloth to keep the dirt out of the meat, and then find you some shade and drag those quarters in until you can get him packed out of there. I mean, if it's 90 degrees, it's hot, man, and meat can spoil quickly.
Yeah, the sooner you can get that away from the body, get the skin off, and get it hung, you can be in good shape.
Joe, another thing I'd like to add to that is if you know that you probably hit an animal back, okay, or it's not really. For me, the Venezuelan mafia boys have hunted with me long enough to know that there's the law. They call it the law of Beto, and it's a 2-hour rule, and I follow this just about every place I bow hunt. Even if I've seen the animal go down or stumble and fall, I'm probably not going to go look for that animal for an hour and a half to 2 hours. Mm-hmm. And I just want the animal to expire and me not get up and bump him, but especially if I think that the shot was marginal. Yeah. You get a shot back towards the liver or paunch area, that's a 4-hour deal, 5-hour deal.
8-hour deal.
Yeah, 8-hour deal.
Yeah.
Those elk are going to die that are hit in the liver or in the paunch.
Right.
If it's hitting the liver, it's about a 4 to 6 hour deal, 8-hour deal. These are big animals. They're not like deer, but they're going to get I'm trying to think of the scientific word. It's called peritonitis, and it's it's an actual blood disease that actually gets septic, and they get an infection and they get a high fever. So they're going to try to find water, and they're going to pass away. It's you just got to give them time. But the more you push an elk, the harder he's going to get out of an area, and the harder he gets out of an area, he can cover 3 or 4 miles before you can, half a day.
And if you just stay off of them, they're going to lay down.
They are. They are. My first bull that's right here, I shot him a little back. Well, I got one good lung and then got the liver on the outside on the going way out. And, we had to leave him overnight, but he laid down and never moved from that position.
No, that's right. And we found him right in that position. And when we found him, he'd probably only been dead for an hour.
Yeah.
He was so
he was still warm underneath.
Right. Yeah.
You're right, Joe.
So that's a good point. The information that you just gave is really huge. If you have a double lung shot, and you have a double lung shot, that's a half-hour minimum. Okay. Right. Now, you end up heart shooting an animal. A lot of times you don't know if you've heart shot that animal unless you see it heal up in front of you. That's a totally different deal. Mm-hmm. You hit that animal in the liver, so you hit that animal a little bit back, and you see that blood, and it's that liver color blood out there. Yeah, then you're 4 hours on that thing. Just leave it, man. Don't booger it. And if you gut shoot an animal, you want to go 6 to 8 hours to stay off that animal. Yeah. I mean, just back off it. Now, there are things that can change that, and that can be, if you have weather coming in, you got to make some decisions on that. And, it's going to kill your tracking or something like that. Sometimes you just got to push the situation. But if you have that choice and you have the option not to, because you have good weather and good conditions, don't.
Yeah, guys, I can't say it enough. Chav and I made a really good stalk, and I called a bull in last year, and I knew I made a decent shot, but it was in lower light, so I couldn't really pinpoint. I knew it hit him mid-body and a little forward towards the crease and just a little high center. But and I heard the animal crash and gurgling and everything else. And I told Chav, I said, we're backing out of here, man. We're not going to get that. We're not going to get that animal up. We were very excited, right? When you have one go down in front of you, it's pretty exciting. But we backed out of there and came back to camp, got Joe and everybody else, and hoped we'd go back for the celebration. So we did.
We got the group together, man. So
that's right.
Which great segue into the bro code.
Oh yeah.
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 True.
For real. Yeah, great segue into the bro
Yeah.
code.
So,
I couldn't have made it without my bros that night. I
oh
promise you.
man, I tell you what, we had, I
The
think
2-mile hike.
we probably hiked him. It was a mile to walk to him and a mile to
I walked
take
back.
him out, right? So
Yeah.
back and forth, we put some miles, and it was a good thing that there were 4 or 5 of us there. So
And it wasn't flat either, I can tell you that.
Right.
So got 4 rules to the bro code, man. You
Give us
don't
all
take
4.
you don't take or give away a buddy's spots. Okay? Don't take or give away a buddy's spots. Do not betray your buddy's kindness, man.
Amen,
You
brother.
know? I mean, a person nice enough to take you under their wing, take you to one of their favorite spots and show you that, give you some success, that does not mean you now own that spot to where you can use it yourself without permission from that person. And look, I know it's public land. I totally get that. But we're
Right.
talking about the bro code here, man.
Right.
And that person has entrusted and given a gift to you. Now, if you talk to that person, say, would it be all right, or can I, and ask permission, and they're like, heck yeah, go get it. I ain't going to be in there. You know, that's a different thing. And then to give it away to other people, to tell them about it, you know, that totally not cool right
No
there.
way, no. No way, no. I'm going to tell you right now, well, I fished a long time, and if I took guys to some places that were shown to me that was sacred ground, I mean, I just didn't do that,
Right.
And I did not, and I would have that conversation. Boys, this is sacred ground. I do not expect to find you back in here with you or anybody else, right? So, I mean, I have that conversation. So it is no doubt a bro code,
Right.
or you have that conversation, hey, man, I'm not going to be there. You're more than welcome to go in
Sure.
there, but please
Yeah.
don't show anybody else that spot.
Yep.
Or have that conversation. It's all about communication, and I 100% support the bro code.
And so the other 3 to that are, you share the prep,
Mm-hmm.
share the work, and share the rewards, man.
Yep.
And I don't think, all of us always work together about who's bringing what and trying to help out. And not everybody has the same amount as everybody else. And that doesn't mean you got to equalize, man. It just means,
No.
Help out.
Effort, man. Everybody can see your attitude and your effort. And all you guys helped me out that night. We didn't get back till like 2 a.m. I got up at 4:30 and started cooking breakfast. For 5 o'clock, started cooking breakfast for everybody because I felt so anointed with the love of my bro codes guys out there that helped me, get my elk back in camp. And then we butchered him, and they took a full day, a full half day out of some guys' hunting time.
Well, but many hands make light work, man.
Right.
Oh man, absolutely. I think another thing, Joe, when we talk about ways that we can get help, is also to help improve our image, so we can educate people so they don't freak out when they see our pictures and stuff like that.
Right.
Make sure we honor the animal in our pictures, that we're not, taking bloody, gory photos.
And this is kind of controversial because there's guys, and I totally get it. I totally understand it, that say, you know what, we did kill that animal. It did bleed. You need to understand that death happens and that animal bleeds and stuff like that. And I totally get that. But the whole thing that I try to tell people is that we just can't educate people when we freak them out first, man, when we close them off,
Right.
So, a lot of people, and we can go into the big old debate about all of that, and we'll do that on another podcast. But, there's a lot of people out there that, once you freak them out with a bloody picture, man, they turn a blind eye, they close their ears, they close their heart, and they just don't see it, So we always try to clean up the area around the animal. We clean up the animal,
Yeah.
And it's kind of like this, wouldn't you, if you were killed in an accident, want people to clean you up before they presented you to other people.
Yeah.
You know,
Well,
I mean,
you know, hopefully the funeral home will keep your tongue from hanging out and stuff like that when you're on display. You know, I'm with you, Joe. I mean, guys, you know, get their mouths closed and wiped off with all the blood off of them.
Right.
I'll bring a rag in my bag just to make sure, and a little bottle of water, that I can make sure that I honor that animal. You know, there are a lot of guys that doesn't bother. And for those guys, you can take all the bloody pictures you want to. But for the people, I've got a real good friend of mine who enjoys seeing our harvests on social media, but she doesn't enjoy seeing all the gore and the blood and stuff like that. And she's been very vocal about saying how much she admires our poses and and the way we honor the animal and keeping them clean, you know, and not being all gory.
We know we've harvested, that we've killed.
That's right.
We've taken that animal's life.
That's right.
And you know, I think it's real important for us as hunters, and lots of ways to make sure that people don't think we're a bunch of slobs out there, you know, and that's just one of them, just by honoring and, like you said, showing honor to that. And, you know, another thing is not to throw your animal parts, your bones and stuff like that, and your hides and stuff. You don't put those out in public view, man. You don't put them out in plain sight. That's why I tell a lot of people, if you're going to clean an animal and you're going to gut it out in the woods and you're going to debone, a carcass in the woods is the most
pretty natural.
Pretty natural, you know.
Yeah.
And if that's not the case, and you do it, take it to some place, you know, bag it up properly, put it in bins just like everything else, or put it in areas like, if you want it to go back to bears and coyotes and other animals, put it in locations that's not in plain sight, you know. Yeah. It just doesn't look good for us.
Mm-hmm. I tell you, one of the things I saw this fall, I had one of the Louisiana Mafia's boys, Luis Gonzalez, come with me, and we brought his daughter and introduced her to hunting. And she actually took her first whitetail with a crossbow. And I watched that. I saw that picture. Yeah, I watched that young lady pray over that whitetail.
Right.
It was moving. I'm talking. It was emotional, and you know, for me, I always say a prayer over that. You know, people can do whatever they want to do. They come from all walks of religion and life. But yeah, I give thanks to God for giving me such a beautiful creature that He made, and for giving us the opportunity where we live on the face of the earth to do what we do. So that child recited a prayer that, I'm telling you, it choked the stars out of heaven. You know, it was beautiful.
I did a podcast with Lance Bernal up at Vermejo Park.
I was going to talk about that, yeah.
And you know, I do the same thing, and that's why I thought it was interesting to talk to Lance. And Lance is of Native American heritage, and it's real important to him and his family to honor and send off that animal properly, just like it is to us. But he said something that struck home to me that I thought was really cool. Was he said that it actually slows down the moment.
I agree. Yeah.
And I think
makes you take it in.
Yeah, it makes you take it in, and it makes you honor that animal. Like he said, you know, wouldn't you want somebody to say something nice about you and give you a send off? And these animals that we hunt, these animals that we seek out to kill, are some of the most majestic and noble creatures there are, and it is truly humbling to be with them on their last breath and with them after they've died. So they are giving to us. And we shouldn't forget that. So, I mean, that's just how I feel about it, and different people feel different ways. But, you know, it's kind of like how you talk about all of this for you is not necessarily just about the kill. It's that whole experience. It's about the
appreciation of nature and, like I said, the majestic animals.
Mm-hmm. So
just about everywhere I go in any ranch, I'm there. If they let me sign something, I'll always put, it's never about the harvest. It's all about the hunt. And for me, that's never been more true.
Right.
I do love eating elk meat, deer meat, everything that we harvest. We eat here.
Mm-hmm.
My family's raised up on deer meat and all the fine. 10 years ago, we started eating elk meat. Now they don't ever want me to come back without one. So,
That's right.
it sustains our families, so
Sure.
we owe it back to that animal to pay homage to the animal and to God. And that's how I see that for sure, Joe.
So I think we're right about at our time this time. And I want to tell everybody next week, the plan is to wrap all this up and discuss final thoughts on our confidence series. Again, we hope you enjoyed that. And we want to answer our listeners' questions. We're going to answer your questions. So if you're hearing my voice, I want you to send something in to us. And don't forget to send your questions. You can send them to info@elkbros.com. And all of us, we've been watching all of y'all out there, man. We've been watching the cities growing. I want to thank muchas gracias to those people in Spain that have been
no doubt.
listening to us. And I don't speak French for you Canadians up there. We've had
Bonjour.
Bonjour. And that have been listening. I mean, we've had them from Sweden and Denmark and all kinds of places in Europe and all over the United States. Man, we're over 400 cities here in the United States. So it's so exciting. It's so humbling. And guys, again, this is for you. That's why we're doing it. We are coaches. And so we're asking our team out there, what do you need from us? You can even send in to us things that you'd like us to talk about on our next podcast or in future podcasts. In fact, if you go into ElkBros.com and you join our camp and you send us a theme of something that you would like to hear us talk about, I am going to make sure that we shout out to you and let people know that this was your question, and we're going to be talking not only to everybody else out there, but we want you to know that we're talking directly to you. So
yeah, we appreciate all of our grinders out there, all of the blue collar elk guys. Again, like Joe said and Chav said, if you have any questions, we definitely want to air them on the show, and that's at info@elkbros.com. That's info@elkbros.com. Joe, Chav, what an awesome show this week.
yeah,
We're looking forward to next week's show for sure.
Mm-hmm.
From Joe and Chav in Cimarron, New Mexico, I'm Gilbert Ornelas. God bless all of you out there and all of our elk brothers. Kiss your wives, and wives, kiss your husbands. Hug your babies. Keep your broad heads sharp and your powder dry. And we'll see you next week right here on Blue Collar Elk Hunting.
Peace, y'all.
Peace.